All right, we are going to talk about key features of quadratic functions today. Now, we already know a polynomial expression in which the highest degree of the variable is 2 is our quadratic in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, you should remember or you should know that a quadratic function makes a U-shaped graph called a parabola. It can open up or down. The axis of symmetry divides the parabola in half, and it's symmetrical, which means like this point and this point are 1, 2, 1, 2 away from there of the axis of symmetry. We have x-intercepts that are called solutions, roots, or zeros. So those are words that you can see, and they all mean the same thing. Our vertex is the turning point, so I'm going down, down, down. I hit my vertex, now I'm going up, up, up. So the vertex is the turning point of the graph. If my pen will work. So the turning point of the graph. Okay. The y-intercept we know is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and anytime we know the y-intercept, we know x is 0. Okay, so let's look at this. So this is the function y equals negative x squared plus 4x minus 3. Now, anytime this a is negative, that's going to tell me it's reflected. So it's going to open down anytime the a is negative. So we're going to look for our vertex. Our vertex, again, is the turning point, so this would be at 1, 2, 1. So 2, 1. Now, the axis of symmetry is an imaginary line that kind of goes through here, and it goes through the vertex. So that is a vertical line, so it's going to be x equals, and then whatever the vertex is there, you're going to put that. So in this case, it will be x equals 2. All right. Domain of all quadratic functions that open up and down is going to be all real numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity, because how wide does it go? It keeps going to the left, keeps going to the right, so it keeps going on infinitely. So it's going to be wide all the way to negative infinity to positive infinity. Our range, though, is restricted based on where our vertex is. So part of your range is always going to have the y value of the vertex. So your range is either going to be from negative infinity to that y value of the vertex, or the y value of the vertex to infinity. If it opens down, you're going to go from negative infinity to the y. If it opens up, you're going to go to the y of the vertex to infinity. So this one opens down. Because how do we read a graph? Bottom to top. So how tall does this go? From negative infinity up to this value at 1. Okay, so you're going to go from negative infinity to 1. And that's going to be a bracket. So let's put a bracket over here. Okay, so that's always going to be a bracket because it is included in that graph for our range. So negative infinity to 1. There we go. Our y-intercept here is 0, negative 3. Our x-intercepts or our solutions are right here. So that's going to be 1, 0, and 3, 0. Okay, so now let's talk about increasing and decreasing intervals. Okay, where is this graph increasing? So we could draw arrows showing that this graph is going up, up, up. So on the left side, it's increasing until it hits that vertex. Okay, so in this case, we're looking at the interval of x. So the increasing interval and decreasing uses the x values, because we're not asking from here to there. We're asking, is it increasing or decreasing, and what interval is it doing it in for the x values? So from negative infinity until it hits that vertex at 2. So from negative infinity to 2. Now 2 is going to have a parenthesis here because I'm increasing. When I hit that vertex, I'm neither increasing nor decreasing. And then I'll be decreasing, decreasing. Okay? So then, let's change colors here. On the right side, I am going down from this interval. Remember, we use the x. The number one mistake is students use the y. They go from 1 down, but that's not the case. We're looking at this interval. How wide is this graph decreasing? So whatever you end in on this one, you will start with the next one. So it will go from 2 to positive infinity. And you should always, 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 in this case, you should use the, it should start with negative infinity, go to positive, whether you're increasing or decreasing. All right, if I'm going here, is this the maximum or the minimum? It is going to be a max. And then we can say that it is at, where does that max happen? At 1. Okay, and sometimes you will see it at 2, 1. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice here and see what we can understand. Okay, so we're looking at these zeros. So this one here is at -3, 0. And then this one is at 1, 0. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to find our vertex. Now some of you need to remember when you go to the left it's negative and then you go down it's negative, because a lot of times you get these values mixed up and it's just taking your time. So that's going to be -1, -4. Okay, the axis of symmetry, remember, is a vertical line that goes through the vertex, and that will always include whatever value that is at the x value is at the vertex. So x equals -1. Okay, this is a minimum, and the minimum is at -4. Again, you could put the point or you can do like that. The domain, all real numbers, negative infinity to positive infinity. And then the range, since this is low to high, where does it start here? It's opening it up, so it starts at -4. It is included, so it is a bracket, and it goes to positive infinity. Okay, interval of increase. So where is this graph increasing? Well, here it's going down. So this graph is increasing on the right side. And remember, we use our x values because we're looking at that interval. So it's going to go from -1 to infinity. So if this one's going to infinity, I know the decrease has to start at negative infinity and go to that vertex point at -1. Okay, so one has to start with negative infinity, the other one ends with positive infinity for these. My y-intercept is at 0, -3. Then our end behaviors, okay? So as x approaches negative infinity, so as x is going to negative infinity, is our y going up or down? So y is going to positive infinity. And then as x approaches positive infinity, these will always be the same. Then we just look at our y's. What is our y doing here? It's also going to positive infinity. And these y's will end the same for all parabolas. So like this one's going to end with positive infinity. This one, what's it doing? The y's are going down. So instead of positive infinity, it will be negative infinity. So let's just hop over here and do this. So as x approaches negative infinity, you always start with that. Y approaches negative infinity. As x is going to the right, to positive infinity, y is still going down, so it's going to negative infinity. Okay, so let's look at this one and go ahead and fill it in. Our zeros are at 1 and 3, so that will be 1, 0, 3, 0. Our vertex is at 2, 1. Our y-intercept is at 0, -3. Our axis of symmetry, x equals 2. This is a maximum, and that maximum What's the highest value of the y? Is at 1. Domain, all real numbers. If you miss that, I'm going to count off 50 points off your test. Not really, but you should not miss that. Okay, our range, it's going down. So we start at negative infinity and we go up to the 1. So negative infinity to 1. Always part of your vertex. Okay, interval of increasing. It's increasing on the left. So that will be negative infinity until my x value of the vertex. Decreasing on the right. So from this 2 to the right. So that's going to be 2 to positive infinity. Hopefully this is making sense and you're understanding. Okay, if you will do problems 3 and 4, stop the video and then come back and check it. And I'm just going to fill them in and then let me know if you have questions. Okay, so here we have the x-intercepts, the zeros at 2 and negative 2. So 2, 0, negative 2, 0. Our vertex, oh, look here, our vertex and our y-intercept are the same. Sometimes that happens. 0, negative 4, 0, negative 4. Okay, our axis of symmetry, x equals 0. That would be the y-axis. This is low point, so it's a minimum, and it's going to be at negative 4. Our domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. Our range, what's the lowest point? Negative 4. That's going to be a bracket to positive infinity. Is this increasing on the left side or right? Okay, going up on the right side. So here we're going to look at 0. And it's going to go to positive infinity. Remember, we're looking at the x values. How is this graph increasing over that interval? And then, since this ended with positive infinity, I know the decrease has to go from negative infinity to it hits that vertex at 0. And remember, these are parentheses because at that vertex, it's neither increasing or decreasing. It's the turning point. Okay, so then you always start with as x approaches negative infinity. And you ask yourself, is this graph opening up? So if it is, both y's are going to go to positive infinity. So then as x goes to positive infinity. Why do we start with negative infinity? Why not start with positive infinity? Because how do we read a graph? Left to right. Okay? All right. So now let's look at this last one. Our zeros here are negative 5 and negative 1. So negative 5, 0, negative 1, 0. Our vertex is at negative 3 up to 4. So negative 3, 4. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative 3. Y-intercept, 0, negative 5. Is this going to be a max? Is it a high point or a low point? It's a high point, so it's a max. And remember how high it goes? So that's going to be at 4. Or you can list the vertex. Domain, all real numbers, negative infinity to positive infinity. Our range, bottom to top, negative infinity till it hits that 4. So negative infinity to 4. Interval of increasing. Where is this graph going? Up on the left side. So that's going to be from negative infinity till it hits the x value at negative 3. One way you can remember this is whatever you're using in the range, you don't use in the interval of increase and decrease. Okay? Then it's going to be from negative 3 to positive infinity. Start and end with negative infinity and positive infinity. Our end behavior as x approaches negative infinity, going to the left, the graph is going down. So y is going to negative infinity. And we know that parabolas always have the same starting and ending. So we keep that the same. Then we're good to go. All right, so I gave you 4 more to practice. You can let me know if you have questions. please reach out and check your plan book. Have a great day.